The moment Marcus Davis looked up from the steaming plate of crispy chicken tenders and fries, he saw her, tiny, blonde curls framing a face too young to know hunger. Yet her wide blue eyes were fixed on his daughter's food with a hollow longing that hit him like a punch to the chest. It lasted only a second, because as soon as the little girl realized she'd been noticed, she dropped her gaze to the table, small hands gripping the edge as if afraid it might disappear. And then her mother, thin, tired, graceful in a faded blue dress, placed a hand gently on her daughter's shoulder and whispered something before quietly preparing to leave. No food, no drinks, no bill, just a camera bag on the table and a folded slip of paper that looked suspiciously like a bill she couldn't pay. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that remind us humanity still exists, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps us spread stories that can change someone's day or even someone's life. Marcus recognized the look in the mother's eyes. It wasn't rudeness. It wasn't pride. It was fear, the kind that makes you shrink into yourself and hope the world doesn't notice your desperation. He knew it because years ago, he had lived inside that same fear. Before the business, before the stability, before he rebuilt life from the ashes, he had been the single dad who skipped meals so his 5-year-old daughter could eat. He had been the man who slept in a beat-up car outside a 24-hour laundromat, praying no one would knock on the window. So when he saw that little girl's empty plate and her mother's trembling hand sliding a few wrinkled bills toward the edge of the table, he felt something inside him stir. Something old, something familiar, something he could not ignore. The Riverside Bistro was warm with the midday sun streaming through the windows, bathing everything in soft gold. It smelled like roasted herbs, fresh bread, and comfort. Everything he once wished he could give his own daughter, Rowan, when life had been merciless. Today, Rowan was happy, nibbling a fry and swinging her legs under the table in her yellow dress. She didn't see the pain Marcus saw, not yet. Childhood protected her from that. But Marcus noticed everything. How the woman clutched her purse like a shield, how her shoes were worn at the edges, how her shoulders curled inward as if bracing for judgment. That he rose slowly, not wanting to startle her, and gently approached their table. The little girl looked up again, eyes flickering between Marcus's warm smile and the untouched glass of water in front of her. Her mother stiffened, immediately pulling the girl closer in a protective gesture born from experience, not instinct. Marcus offered help softly, not with pity but with understanding, yet she shook her head and muttered a quiet refusal. She wasn't rude. She wasn't ashamed. She was terrified of generosity that might come with conditions, of kindness that could turn into control, of relying on someone only to have it twisted into a weapon. Something in her past had taught her that help wasn't safe. Marcus didn't push. He stepped back, nodded gently, and returned to his seat. But he didn't stop watching, not out of suspicion but out of concern. Rowan, perceptive in ways children tend to be, whispered that the little girl looked sad, that maybe they should give her some of their food. Marcus smiled, proud of her heart. Still, he didn't force anything. You couldn't force trust. Not after it had been broken. Sarah Caldwell, that was the woman's name, though Marcus didn't know it yet, lifted her daughter into her arms and walked toward the exit, moving carefully, like stepping on glass. Each step seemed to cost her something. Her camera bag thumped lightly against her hip, suggesting she was a photographer or trying to be one. The folded bill left on the table revealed the truth. She had ordered something small but couldn't afford it, and had decided to simply leave the money she had, even if it wasn't enough. It was dignity in its rawest, most heartbreaking form. Marcus signaled the waiter discreetly, took care of the difference, and added extra, enough for a full meal. But he told the waiter not to mention him. He didn't want gratitude. He didn't want recognition. He just wanted the mother and child to eat something before the day was over. Still, when he glanced outside, he saw Sarah walking briskly across the parking lot, her daughter clinging to her hand, both disappearing into the bright daylight like ghosts fleeing a place that had almost seen too much that he didn't chase them. Something told him that chasing would only make her run faster. Days passed. Marcus didn't expect to see them again. Riverside was a small town, but lives didn't always cross twice. He went back to his work, managing his construction supply company, caring for Rowan, juggling responsibilities that felt lighter now compared to the dark years behind him. But every so often, he thought about the little girl's eyes, the kind of hunger he recognized on a soul-deep level. And he wondered who had hurt Sarah enough to make her afraid of compassion. Then, 1 week later, fate, or something like it, intervened. It was a bright late morning, sunlight sharp and full of promise, when he walked toward his truck after delivering materials to a client. Across the street, near the pharmacy, he saw Sarah again. But this time, she wasn't walking briskly or clutching her daughter's hand with protective urgency. She was kneeling on the sidewalk, holding her little girl, Willa, he would later learn, as the child wheezed, coughing and choking, shallow breaths. Panic carved deep lines into Sarah's face. She fumbled with her phone, tried dialing someone, but her hands were shaking uncontrollably. People passed but hesitated, unsure whether to intervene. Marcus didn't hesitate at all. That he crossed the street quickly, calmly, and knelt beside them. His voice was steady, practiced from years of tending to Rowan during her childhood fevers and nighttime scares. Willa was burning up, cheeks flushed, eyes glassy. Sarah looked up at Marcus with the same fear as before, but now it was layered with something sharper, desperation. She didn't reject him this time. She couldn't. The walls she had built cracked open beneath the weight of her daughter's gasping breaths. Marcus scooped Willa gently into his arms and told Sarah to follow. They rushed into his truck, and he drove with focused intensity toward the urgent care clinic 3 miles away. Sarah held Willa tightly in the back seat, whispering soft reassurances through tears. When they arrived, Marcus stayed, not hovering but present, signing whatever forms Sarah's trembling hands couldn't complete. After an hour that felt like a lifetime, the doctor explained Willa had a severe respiratory infection but would be okay with medication and rest. Relief washed over Sarah so forcefully she had to sit down. The storm inside her quieted, and for the first time, she allowed herself to look at Marcus, not suspiciously, not fearfully, but with gratitude untainted by fear. In the soft daylight of the clinic lobby, she told him her story. How a man had once offered her help when she'd been at her lowest, only to slowly trap her in control and manipulation. How she had escaped with Willa, determined never to let anyone have power over her again. How trust felt dangerous, and kindness felt like the first step toward losing herself. Marcus listened quietly. When she finished, he spoke gently, telling her about the years he and Rowan had struggled, how he had once been exactly where she stood, how he understood the difference between real help and disguised control, and how he would never offer anything she didn't want to accept. From that day forward, he didn't try to rescue her. He simply showed up. He checked on Willa's recovery. He invited them for lunch, but never insisted. He dropped off extra groceries anonymously until she found out and asked him, tearfully, to stop treating her like she was fragile. So he stopped. He treated her instead like someone rebuilding a life, with resilience, not weakness. Slowly, carefully, Sarah allowed him into her world. Not as a savior, not as a knight in shining armor, but as a friend. A constant, steady presence who believed in her strength more than she believed in her own. And one sunny afternoon at the Riverside Bistro, the same place where everything began, Marcus watched Willa laugh with Rowan over a shared plate of fries, and Sarah sat across from him with soft eyes that no longer flinched at kindness. She thanked him, not for rescuing them, but for respecting their pace, their boundaries, their dignity. For showing her that real help wasn't a chain. It was a bridge. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your engagement helps keep stories of compassion alive. Special request. Comment, kindness still wins. If you believe every broken heart deserves a safe place to heal. And so, in the warm daylight of a small-town bistro, a once homeless father, a frightened mother, and 2 little girls discovered something rare and life-changing. That sometimes, the gentlest acts of kindness can rebuild trust where it was once shattered, and open doors to a future none of them dared to imagine.